Hello everyone, welcome back. You're watching Empyrion Galactic Survival episode 177. I'm Enigmaus, and today, it's been a few days since I released an episode, because I've been busy building this thing. We're getting close, and I realized we'll probably do a brief update video just so that people can see that work is progressing and hasn't been abandoned. Specifically, the exterior is almost done and the interior is well underway. Now, I wasn't entirely certain how I wanted to approach the interior, but I've sort of arrived at a decision. We'll take a look at that momentarily. A lot of the time that I've spent has been working on these strips of detail in between this point and this point, all the way down, and then on the insides as well, and of course on the far side. And the whole idea here is basically just to add some sort of detail that looks like equipment and machinery and pipes and all kinds of stuff hanging out in space for whatever reason. Kind of like how they designed the actual Millennium Falcon when they got to that point and said, what do we have that we can just sort of stick in here that looks sci-fi like? So that's what I did. So we've got what looks like some pipes, kind of goes like that, and then it branches off into the two, and then it goes like that, and then back into the ship, and we've got sort of like a little silo kind of thing, and then we've got some vents and compartments of various different kinds, more vents, more tubes, dirty looking things, and then in the inside we've got basically the same kind of thing, same concept, and then of course over here as well. It took a while just trying to figure out things that I could put in here without, first of all, being overly repetitive with the various different things that I had access to, and also kind of doing it in a way that looks like it sort of made sense. But we got it done. I'm satisfied with it. With all of the stuff that I could have done in this particular area, I feel like this is about as close as I'm going to get to authentic, just because of the discrepancy in what might be there on the real Millennium Falcon and what we might have access to in terms of blocks to replicate it. The one thing that I was uncertain of early in the design process was how I was going to manage entry into the ship. In the previous iteration of the ship, the simple saucer version, it was basically a hole in the bottom of the ship right where this pulse laser turret is, and you would just go up an elevator through that hole and arrive inside the ship. Very simple, very straightforward. Not quite how the actual Millennium Falcon sort of works in that regard. We have this ramp here, which is pretty close to where the actual entry ramp would be on this side, and there's one on the other side as well. And you would go up this ramp. I don't know if this door would be here in the original, but it is sort of an airlock, so I'm going to say yes. And then one of the concessions that I had to make was for the difference in height between where the cockpit is and where you enter the ship to. So the cockpit is up here, and if you look inside, you can see we've got, like we saw in the last episode, we've got the passenger seats, we've got the cockpit seat there, we've got a console. The actual cockpit itself is enormous compared to the real deal, so to speak, and it's way up high in the air as well. If we wanted to have everything the way that it's supposed to be, we would have to basically cut out several layers. It's the only way I can describe it. We would have to make the ship a lot shorter. Right now it's far too tall in order for everything to line up perfectly. If we were to do that, if we were to make the ship as thin as it would need to be in order to get that detail, we would lose all of the detail that makes it look like it's not just a disc, a flat white disc with the pincers on the front and the engines in the back. So it was kind of a toss-up how we were going to approach it, but I decided ultimately that if we were to continue the entryway with a set of stairs that comes up here to a floor that is on the same level as access to the cockpit, then we would be in better shape overall. Not perfect. It's not going to be a perfect replica of the Millennium Falcon, but it'll be close enough that I'll be happy with it. So you can see we come in from the ramp down there, through the door, into this circular kind of walkway. This is the other ramp down that way. And then we have a little room here. Based on the floor plan that I have for the Millennium Falcon. I think it's the same one that was actually provided by a viewer, provided a link for it. And I've been using either that version or something very, very similar that said there was a room here. I don't even know what the room is for, but this is very similar to the floor plan for that room, just in terms of where the walls are, and it's got sort of the curved section in the back and these little parts here that kind of push in at the corners like that. Narrow entryway, and then back here barely even started texturing, much less painting. This whole back section is where a lot of the engine components are going to be. We're going to have our generators and all that stuff in this back area, which I think is pretty much what it's for in the actual ship. And again, trying to make it as close as possible to the floor plan. So we've got curved walls around here, and then we've got things kind of working on an angle, and it comes around here. This section here is also sort of curved, following the profile. And then over here, if we come down here, the actual profile, the floor plan for the Millennium Falcon calls for a hallway coming out this way and wrapping around into a room. And this would be one of the main sort of recreation areas. This is where they have the seats with the little holographic sort of chess game that they play in the movies. It's difficult to make this hallway line up the way it's supposed to. It's actually supposed to line up with this hallway over here, which this is the other entrance that we just came through. So it comes around this way. That guy's way over there. It should be dead ahead. The reason that it's not lined up properly is, again, because we had to account for the change in elevation when you enter the ship, and it just sort of worked out in the worst possible way. I may rework this area. I would rather not have these blocks here, but we'll see. We'll just kind of see how everything plays out. So we have the rest of this area here that needs a floor. First of all, that's one of the key things, is it needs a floor. The walls are roughed in for the most part. They still need dividing sections or partitions into different rooms and such. And then this central area that currently has no access needs a couple of little rooms built into it, coming off of this central hallway. And in here, what I've got currently is the warp drive and the core, the ship's core. So hopefully you don't let your warp drive get attacked and destroyed, because the explosion might do a horrible thing to your ship's core in the process. So this is obviously a work in progress in here. We'll be kind of finishing that off as soon as I can, and then we have to close in all of these sort of ports and things like that you shouldn't really be able to see through. Finish replacing all of the things that we removed so that we could put them in a location that was a little bit more sensible. And then under here we've got this whole great big area that is unfinished. Doesn't really make sense anymore. It did when it was part of the Simple Saucer, but it doesn't when it's part of the Millennium Falcon. And I think what I will probably do is a little bit of work just to kind of smooth things off so that they make a little bit more sense structurally down here, and then I'm just going to leave them. And if people want to have little secret hiding spots or stowage areas or whatever they can imagine for their own personal Millennium Falcon, they can do that work themselves and get that sorted out to their liking. But for me, it's nice to have the majority of the challenging stuff done in terms of the detailing on the exterior and the layout of the interior, and trying to make it as close as possible without driving myself insane trying to make it happen. There's always that line where I realize that it's gone too far trying to make it as close to authentic as the game will allow. and it's time to just kind of take a step back and let things work out the way they do, because there's no way this is going to be perfect. The last thing that I'm kind of not even certain I'm going to go forward with is, in terms of exterior detailing, is this sort of area in here. We've got all these different things for texture and visual appeal. Looks like machinery around the exhaust ports and all these other things. We're going to have some of the descent thrusters are going to be lined up with these ports. And to me, that just makes a little bit of sense to have them that way. The lift thrusters obviously are going to have to be vented out the underside, but we have this opportunity to make something fit in a way that makes sense. So we'll do that. But there should be more detail. If we were to draw a line from that sort of central disc there where the turret is sitting, straight down like this, sort of like that, parallel to the line here on this little thing, and fill that in from the line over with various different bits of machinery and things sticking out of the hull. And I think that would be a little bit closer to authentic. So that's something that I'm considering. I'm not exactly sure what I would put there, though. It's only the only concern that I have before I jump into it. So I'm pretty happy with the way it's going. I'm pretty happy looking at it from the outside and seeing that it's in pretty good shape in terms of things looking the way that they're supposed to. So I'm expecting that the next time you see this ship, it will be in a video with a blueprint offering, so that you guys can dive in if you're so inclined and take a look at it and go from there. And then we'll be on to the next thing. So if you want to be notified about the next video, the easiest way to do that is to subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media are always in the information section below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.